of number 18, Hot Sauce Giovanni Scelzi.
All right, guys, welcome to a new episode of Scelzi Says here on YouTube. We're also on wherever you're listening to this on the podcast. Tell your friends about it. Give us 5 stars. Subscribe. Do all that good stuff. This is a special episode. We haven't done this, so I've been on the March Madness trail. I did watch you, Gio, get your win. I was watching it on my phone in the bowels of the T-Mobile Center at the Big 12 tournament. In fact, I think I missed like 10 minutes of the game because I was watching that. I'm like, oh,
not
Gio's
important.
Got this.
Racing's more important.
Yeah. How are you doing, man?
Good. How are you, bud? You too.
No, I'm glad to be back off the road. I don't know how you guys do it the way that you guys do it. I mean, I was gone for like 4 weeks, and I feel like I just feel like death right now.
We were gone probably damn near the same amount of time. I mean, the whole month of March for us, we went to Florida. We're supposed to race 2 nights in Cannondale. It got rained out, so we sat in Dallas for 2 weeks. And then I don't remember what was after that. Cannondale, and then
a lot of rain in between.
Page actually, and Cotton Bowl looked like complete cancellation. Like they were almost going to cancel on Thursday, and we ended up racing both nights, and then raced 1 night Cannondale, 1 night in Wichita. Now we're back, so we were gone for about a month.
Who's this ugly guy you brought in today?
Well, I'm glad we have someone in the podcast studio finally. This is my brother.
What's up, Dominic? How you doing, man?
Guys? I'm glad to be on.
Pull that a little closer to your mouth there. There you go.
I feel like I'm back in high school. No, I'm excited. You know, I've been able to watch your guys' episodes before, and I love your guys' content, and it's a lot of fun to listen to it. So
we're just hitting our groove.
Exactly.
We're just in hot laps right now.
And now you got the guy that can, I'm taking all the tape off, and we're gonna be after hours today.
I was told. I was telling some of my racing buddies that you were coming in, and they told me that you're a better talker than Gio. Is that true?
And better looking. Yeah.
All of the above.
No, so I don't want to date this too much. We won't talk about tonight's race, but you guys, it's April 5th if you're listening later on. But you guys are both racing in Missouri tonight, so that's why Dominic's here. And so, real quick, catch everybody up if they don't know where you're at now. You're living out in the West Coast, right?
Yeah. So I live in California, and actually just moved out of Fresno to Clovis, which is like next door. It's the same town, but our parents moved a few years ago up into like the foothills. So my wife and I were expecting our first baby. So we ended up moving a little bit closer, got a beautiful home on a awesome little area. And it's a lot of fun living there because I've grown up there. So every restaurant in the town knows me on a first name basis. And
that's cool.
I think I probably should run for mayor at times. You know, I feel like I know everybody everywhere we go, but I've always, raced all around, and over the last few years, I've started racing more close to home and staying, somewhat local, just the West Coast. But this year is something we've been wanting to do for a few years, and like coming out to the Midwest, and it's been fun to race out in the Midwest away from California at tracks that most of them I haven't been to yet, believe it or not. So that's been a lot of fun, but the flying back and forth gets tiring.
What's the regional series like out there? How does that?
So it's a small series, the NARC 410 series, Northern Auto Racing Club.
Okay.
So basically Brent Kading is like the founding father. I would say he won 75 of the 40 championships and 10,000 races. Like
Bill Baylog of IRA.
Basically Bill Baylog IRA, Steve Kinser, the Outlaws. Like,
are you going for him?
Honestly, if I won every race from now till 50, I don't know if I could get there. But it's a great little series. You got guys like Shane Golobic, Justin Sanders, Justin Cox, Corey Day, who won the championship last year, who's set the world on fire.
We know all those names.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So a lot of really good guys. Kyle Larson was a champion. Brad Sweet ran it. I mean, if you've been a Californian, you've raced pretty substantially with the NARC series, I would imagine being your main group you race with.
It's wild. Like Midwestern guys, I'm not familiar with the California scene at all. I just know it produces a lot of guys like y'all, but I'm not familiar with it.
I mean, look at the landscape of the United States. You go pretty much California, Oregon, Washington are on their own island. There's nothing. Arizona, Nevada, really till you get to Iowa. Nebraska, maybe there's some racing. I mean, there's some sprint cars up in like Montana and stuff, but it's all 360 regional, which who knows what will happen with that now. But there's really nothing. Like you have to literally say, I'm going to California to race. It's not like we used to race handful of races in Arizona. Now that Queen Creek shut down, it's just harder to you have to make the trip literally from Iowa to California. There's no racing on the way there or on the way back. I mean, we race in, I think, Tulare this year, and our next race is in Ohio.
It's so weird because like back when I started racing 410s, Arizona was kind of a hotbed. Like you would go there in January, February, you would race there in November, December. Like there was big stuff. Non-wing cars would race there. I remember Brian Clausen racing there all the time. Wing
Western
stuff
World,
was
all
huge.
Western World
Western
stuff,
World. I mean, Arizona has always been a hotbed, and it's kind of completely gone down the drain. It's a shame, and I know the majority of those guys that are racing back there are not happy with what's going on there, because I think there's only like 10 wing sprint car races in the state this year. So pretty sad what's going on.
Can we watch the NARC series? Is it streamed?
Yeah, it's on Flow.
Oh,
thankfully.
great!
Yeah.
Wow, this is huge for me.
Yes, exactly.
This is huge for me. This is a breakthrough. This is my new late night TV.
No, it's perfect.
Yeah.
And what's
I
cool
watch
about
like the Alaska. You ever watch that?
Yes.
The like sport cars out of Alaska.
Yeah,
Yes.
on the snow.
Yeah.
They're badass.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, like that's pretty much the best thing about NARC is like once everything gets done on the East Coast and the Midwest, it's like, hey, the bars are closing. Let's turn on NARC. And you always get the drunken tweets from the people on the East Coast talking
that's
shit.
gonna be me.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna be sending you drunken tweets. From
That'll
now
be
on.
perfect. That'll
No,
be
because
perfect.
I have a very strict summer routine. I have a back patio where I have a TV, fire pit, and I'll always Outlaws, late models, flipping it back and forth, and then it's all over. And now I know about this series. Like I'm all in.
And they got what, 26 races, 25 races, something like that?
And Jim Allen is the president of the series. It's a club actually, and it's a good little series. It's kind of, it did a restructure in like 2014, and I think that was right around the time you were starting to race 410s, and from that point to now, like we used to race for $3,000 to win and struggled to have 14 or 15 races, and now it's 25, 26 races. We've got a $62,000 to win race in Skagit. We've got a bunch of 10,000s, a bunch of 5,000s, so it's growing.
Skagit's where my buddy Blake
Yep.
Blake
Working there
Anderson
now.
went. Yeah. He's back in Iowa. I didn't even
know he's from Iowa until I talked to you about it.
He's from Newton. Yep.
I think like you talk about California is how unique it is because of 360 racing. Like really anywhere in the country, not that 360 racing is viewed as less. I mean, it really kind of is in the Midwest compared to 410 racing, but 360s in California, you literally have all the badass guys from NARC racing every big paying 360 race. Like you have to have 360s. We don't own a 360. You have to have 360s to race in California, which is unique because I mean, the Outlaws taking over ASCS. I wonder what will happen there. And what their landscape looks like, because they kind of just have to pick up the pieces from this year, I feel like, and make whatever schedule they have left, with all the relationships they have. But California is unique because growing up, like I said, a 25 race schedule is not going to fill your whole season. To race 50 times, you got to run 30 360 shows, which is nowhere else in the country, I don't feel like.
No, and I mean, I think that, California gets overlooked for that because like, oh, it was just a 360 race. And then you look at the rundown and it's like you got 15 Outlaw wins in that, in that group of guys, and your top 10 guys, they're the same top 10 at the 410 race, and they're half of the top 10 when the Outlaws come to town. So like we've got some really good guys. It's weird because, we have SCCT, which is like our 360 series, and NARC, which they don't conflict, but it's theoretically, I mean, all you're doing is changing an engine. You're running the same guys
exactly
every weekend. Yeah. And so, I mean, there's guys out there that, they've never won a 410 race, but they've won a couple 360 races. Well, they're really just as good as the guy that's won a couple 410 races, but not winning the 360 shows. It's basically just an engine change, and we're racing the same guys.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm fired up. Thank you for the diecast, by the way.
Those things turned out great. I just got
contributing to my problem.
Absolutely, adding to the list. They turned out great. I was really nervous about doing it, but G pushed me pretty hard. First one I've ever done.
Really?
Yeah.
So, will you guys tell me how that works? Because I was talking with Tyler Erb, the late model driver. This
Turbo.
was 5-6 years ago. And he was telling me, like, if there's any diecast, because I was asking him, because again, I'm a diecast sicko. I've got, the amount of money in diecast I have, my house better not ever burn down. I should get insurance on them, to be honest. He was telling me, like, if there's any out there, now he's since gotten into the game, but he was like, if there's any out there, it's a ripoff, like somebody's doing it custom on their own, and they don't have permission to be doing it. So do you guys, when you make these diecasts, do you work with the company directly?
Yeah. So it's honestly a gigantic pain in the ass to get diecast. Like it makes sense to do it. Like people love diecast. And I think there was probably 5-6 years where no one did them. A company went out of business during COVID, I believe. And the molds got changed because these are all new molds than what the old ones are. And so Acme is the company that does them. And I reached out to them. Well, they actually reached out to me a long time ago. And I was like, man, I don't have my t-shirt deal going. I'm not ready to spend X amount of $30,000-$40,000 in diecast.
You got to put that up
right away when you order
It's
them.
up front, yeah.
So, he reached out to me, or I reached out to him end of 22. So like September of 22, we decided what design we're going to do, which was this design. And they said, okay, they'll be there in like June. It's like, goddamn. So it's September. I mean, and it's weird. Okay, yeah, I'll get them in June. But then like February rolls around, you're going to the races. You're like, well, where are your diecast at? Well, they think they'll be here in June. So ordering stuff that far out sucks. So they have options where you can do 500, I believe, is the order. What we do, you can take all of them, you can take a portion of them, and they can sell them. So they really help out like a smaller team. Like you, I don't think took all of them.
I took all of them.
So you did take all of them.
Everyone.
So teams like a smaller team say, hey, I'll take 100 of these, and then Acme sell the rest of them and give you a percentage of what they sell. So they really do help the teams because 500 is a minimum order. That's the least amount you can order.
And then you guys just mark them up and make some money on them.
Exactly. Same as a t-shirt, same as anything else.
Yeah.
But like you said with a diecast thing, it's hard because like I know that unless I sell them to someone, no one has these diecasts. I have dealers and stuff that sell them. They sell to a dealer cost and they resell them, upcharge them like retail price. But if there's an 18 car that I didn't sell, it's not mine. So like there are like Ryan Hoover next door. He has a couple that he's had done custom, like of my old car, which is cool. But I feel like it's like, how do you authenticate this? It's not like there's a certificate with it that says it's legit. Like I'm sure NASCAR diecast and like IndyCar diecast have authenticity where it's like, this is a legit one.
They all have numbers on them.
Right. To sell them. And like these have VIN numbers, but it's number 1 through 500.
Oh,
what number is that one?
80.
God bless you.
Mm-hmm.
It is an absolute addiction, these diecasts. And I had to, when COVID hit, I was like, I really got back. I had two things happen. My uncle died. So I inherited like tens of thousands of these. And a lot of them are the little, like, the 164 like that. But I start going through them, and then I started really watching NASCAR again. I haven't watched it in a really long time. And then your guys' shit just goes crazy because it was like the only sport going on and stuff.
Yeah.
So then I start buying the dirt ones, and now I have like a legitimate problem. It's dipping into my kids' college fund.
Like growing up, we had so many.
Oh my God.
And it was like every race we go to, we could get one. And like we would get, they were like the 125th scales at the time. And we had, it would be embarrassing to
we could damn near have a whole feature lined up on our, I swear to God, on our carpet.
B-main.
Yeah, and our carpet. And we would push them all around on our carpet, make like grooves, make a cushion in the carpet, and race around tires and stuff. And that's
you
what
guys are disgusting people. You know that? You're sick
man.
guys.
Yeah, all right.
I love it. You're my kind of.
It was terrible.
Our hallway.
You're my
mom,
kind of dudes.
My poor mom, like under her bed, like because there was a good racetrack right in her bedroom, of course.
The carpet was real fluffy. So
so
you could push the carpet down and make turns.
So
my track pep was great.
Yeah.
My problem as a kid was that my dad and my uncle, we had all these cars, but they wouldn't let me take them out of the package, right? Because it makes sense. But like now, I take all the big ones out and display them, and I don't buy 164s anymore.
No,
I'm not. That's too much shit just lying around. Like I don't.
And now they're more of a toy than a collectible.
Yeah. So what I do is like I was a Bill Elliott fan, grew up in a Bill Elliott family, so I buy all of Chase's. I like to support dirt guys.
Yep.
So like I'll buy the Larson ones I like. And like if any, like, like when Donnie ran in Knoxville, I bought his truck.
Oh, they did a diecast of that? That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I got that one.
That's cool.
Yeah, so like stuff like that, I try and like specialize it. And then with the dirt stuff, it's like, there for a while, I was buying all of Bobby Pierce's, but God, it gets so freaking expensive. So now I'm just buying, I'll buy like your guys' stuff, like my buddies, but then I bought the 41 because the ABBA, I'm good buddies with Dennis and like that type of stuff. But you got to draw a limit, otherwise you're going to go broke.
Yeah. I tell you what, like I actually already committed to buying two of Bud Kading's cars, the 69 and the 29. And like, a lot of people don't realize Bud Kading out in California, like he was Kyle Larson before there was a Kyle Larson.
He's like a god.
Yeah, like amazing. And he did Indy Lights and he did all these amazing things at a young age. And like he has these 69 and 29 diecasts. And I'm like, save two for me. I'm buying them. So, that's back adding. And my wife told me don't bring any more home because now I'm buying old ones.
When they show up, you just be like, Bud must have sent them. I don't know.
I don't know. She won't watch this. I have to like hide the boxes.
Is that a new one on the shelf? No, that's been there for months. I don't know what you're talking about.
Get home before she does on the days that like Circle B is doing a delivery to my
Call
house.
delivery driver. Hey, dude, do not deliver this one. Text me when you get it.
I don't know where it came from. Somebody gave it to me as a gift. I don't know. Well, get out, buy Dominic. Where can they buy that?
Yeah, you can go to my website.
I saw you have new ones out too, Gia.
Yep.
So
I can't wait to get those.
Pre-orders
really
ready.
good.
Yep, we got our our prototype one. We got it in, so they should be here late May, early June.
Okay.
Awesome. Yeah, Dominic Scelzi Racing is my website, and it's got all my merchandise. And we did 300, which was the new minimum order, because I kind of thought I was going to hold on to these for a few years, and I think I'm down to like maybe 60 cars left.
Wow.
So
That's great.
Yeah, my fingers crossed that I get them all sold out before Knoxville, and I don't have to worry about trying to, sell any here. And I've got small ones too, but we do a lot of actually what's really cool is I did sweatshirts a few years ago, and they have a beer holder right here, and then they have a beer opener. And I just thought they were really cool, but they were kind of expensive, and they were like $50 when everyone else's sweatshirts were 40. I sold out like that, like overnight. And now we've got them again, but I know once we get to the racetrack and people start seeing them, they're going to sell like crazy, but that's fun.
I just meeting you today for the first time, but I knew he was my kind of guy when I was looking at your website, and I saw your shirts kind of like the Bush Light.
Yes.
Yeah,
yep.
That's my kind of shit right there.
Yeah, I like to have fun. What's amazing to me is like all the years, like I've been racing for a long time. Everyone thinks I'm like mid 30s, early 40s.
I think you came on my radio show.
I very well could have.
I'm pretty sure you have, when you raced Knoxville for a while.
Yeah,
right?
yep.
Yeah.
You lived in West Des Moines.
I lived in West Des Moines. Yeah,
I don't think anyone really knows that.
Yeah.
Well, my radio show, so I'm one of the few, like, I don't know if you call me mainstream, but whatever, media guys who loves racing.
Right.
So Knoxville did a advertising deal with my show, and once a week they would bring a driver on.
Yep.
And I'm positive. I mean,
I very well could have. Well, because I lived here.
Yeah.
So it was easy to do stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, we had some good times though. We had Jonathan Davenport. We had Larson came on a bunch.
Very
Brian Blackjack was on all the time. I'm gonna have to get his new diecast too. He's got the Andy's frozen custard.
Oh, dude,
y'all
that stuff's
familiar with
deadly.
that?
Yeah. Well, for a while when he first got it, he was giving everybody samples. So I just tried to park next to the 21 trailer as much as I possibly could. Say, hey, you have any samples?
That place is iconic down at the Lake of the Ozarks.
I can't believe there's not one here yet. They got to be coming here soon, I would think.
Well, they spent a lot of money in dirt racing.
Yeah,
because they're on
they're
a
doing
late
NASCAR
model
too. I think they
Yeah,
sponsor
they
a NASCAR
are.
race or something. Or
They're on like
NASCAR.
I think it was
truck
Cole
or something.
Custer or
Yeah.
something like that,
Yep.
maybe. And
Change his name to Cole Custard.
That would be smart.
That'd be
Boom!
perfect. There's your
We have
marketing.
jokes.
There's your marketing, Andy's.
We have jokes. All right. Wanted to ask you, Dominic, and then I'm gonna let you guys just flip shit on each other. But you have two little girls, right?
Yes.
How old
Yep.
are they?
One of them's going to be a year old next week. So when I
years.
get home the day before her first birthday, and then my oldest, the Spitfire of the family, she's 2.5.
Are they gonna race? You gonna let them race?
I hope not.
Just keep them out of the pits, man.
I'm gonna
That's
be
the
honest.
key.
Yes, seriously. I'm gonna keep them. Hopefully, golf course or I don't know something that's gonna be less dangerous or whatever, but less expensive. That would be great for me. Like all I've done my entire life. I mean, we grew up at the racetrack every weekend, and it was great memories and all that fun stuff. But I just keep thinking the amount of money that my family has spent for us to start racing. You could pretty much go to the lake every weekend and do something fun like that. And
I would just own a lake house.
You could probably own a lake house.
Own a lake at that
Or you
point.
could own a lake. Yeah. I don't know. I'd love to do something different, whether it be dance or something else. Like I'm more than happy doing something.
Let me give you a tip. Anything but dance.
Have you seen those TikToks that it's like, it's cut. And the dad's like doing this.
Yeah.
And it's like when your kid's when you have a daughter instead of a son and you're a football dad or something like that. But yeah,
Mine are 4 and 9.
Oh my gosh.
You think racing's expensive? Go dancing for a year.
Really?
Huh. These dance studios here it's a total ripoff.
Well,
It's
I'm sure.
complete and total ripoff.
I mean, everyone probably tells your kid they're going to be the next Yao Ming or whatever of dancing. I don't know who the LeBron James of dancing is, but Yao Ming sounds right. But
Yeah.
they can also dunk.
I did not think we were going to get a Yao Ming reference on here. No,
Shout out to Yao. Love you, bud.
Honest question here. Do you race differently now that you have little girls back home? Do you ever think about that? Like, are you a little less heavy on the pedal? Anything?
I think that if you start doing that, you should be done.
Great
I
point.
don't race any different. I don't think any different. For whatever reason, when we found out we were having a baby, I started racing a lot better. Maybe it was just because financially I needed to.
Yeah.
But one thing that I have noticed is I'm much more mindful of racing in general. Like he crashed last week. And it really messed with me. Like I was really emotional about it, and it upset me because like my kids are the two most important things in my life. Like I love them more than anything or anyone. And then like this guy is the most important person in my life. Like him and my wife, I could not live without him. And he's like my best friend. And watching him, pirouette through the air like that right in front of me, it was scary. And
Dude, it fucked with me, and I don't even know him that well.
No,
I mean,
absolutely.
he's becoming a good buddy of mine, but it's terrifying.
It's terrifying. And like, unfortunately, I was there the night when Jason Johnson lost his life. And a lot of people, probably nobody knows this, he was going to drive the 27 car when Greg Hodnett passed away. Greg Hodnett had a hand injury, and Gio was going to drive it. And I think he just
with
said
Bernie,
with Bernie,
it never, they wanted us to go drive it, and it just never was like, hey, Hefner wants you to run the car, and it never worked out to where we could go. It
never worked out. Yeah, but I mean, death is something that we deal with in the sport, unfortunately. But it's different when you have kids, because I think, like, I don't want them to lose their uncle, and I definitely don't want them to lose their dad. So like when the wind was bad the other night, I'm like, I'm not racing. There's no chance.
You guys tell me, because again, I'm just a dumb fan, but I'm very passionate about this, and I'm as passionate about auto racing as I am anything that's not my kids. I always kind of thought, and maybe I'm just dumb and wrong, but like when I watch NASCAR, it used to be these guys would race until they're 60, and they'd, like I'm thinking of guys like Sterling Marlin and, the old boys from back in the day.
Dick Trickle.
We don't see that as, Dick Trickle's a short track legend out east. We don't see that as much anymore. And I feel like there's a part of me, and again, this is a dumb fan, but I also understand it as a father, where once these guys start, like Dale Jr. is a great example, gets married, has kids, man, I don't want to get another concussion. It's not worth it anymore. Right. I read his book, and it's just like, oh, I get it.
Yeah.
Like, get the hell out. Like, while you're
Absolutely.
still Kurt Busch going through that. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Is there an aspect of that in your sport where when you have a wife and kids, like sometimes guys lose their edge at all? Because I see what you're saying. Because I would think it's almost more dangerous to not be aggressive. But I don't know. Am I on? Is that real?
I mean, that's a great point. I think when you start, I mean, I can tell you, I don't have kids, obviously, but when you're
someday, lad,
when you're in the race car, there's zero thought in my mind about anything else other than the task at hand. Like when I crashed at Wichita, you land and I'm like, okay, I just crashed. Get out of the car. It's junk. Okay. Like that's once things stop happening. Like even when you're crashing, I've never been able to think about I'm crashing. Close your eyes. Like, because like the IndyCar guys and F1 guys, they take their hands off the steering wheel. That's the last thing I'm doing, because like I'm trying to maneuver the thing off the wall. But I mean, once you're in the air, obviously you might move your hands off the wheel.
But they have to, because it'll break their arms, right?
Because the steering is so quick. I think it just will rip, the steering wheel, because he moves that way. So if they touch it, will break their hands. But
because that's how Ricardo broke his hand or
finger,
whatever.
I think something.
Yeah.
I obviously having kids, I think some guys get better, and some guys obviously start thinking about, man, I don't want to get hurt. I want my daughter to have a dad. But
it certainly hasn't impacted like Larson.
No,
definitely not a god.
No,
I mean, he's amazing,
right? And I mean, maybe some like you broke your back. Some of these guys have never had injuries. Knock on wood, I've never broken a bone in a race car.
Yeah.
When you haven't had those injuries, like I flipped real hard, like you said at Wichita, and I felt better Sunday than I did Saturday.
When you were flipping, when you're in a spot like that, and I'm assuming most people watching saw what. I've heard guys explain like that it goes really slow when you're in the air like that. Is that what is that like? What is that experience like?
I got a shitty restart, which I was getting shitty restarts. I spun the tires all the way down the front stretch. Donnie was under me. I didn't see Carson coming. He had a big run, and I went to go to the top. Carson was coming down, totally racing thing. He ran over my right front, turned the car to the right, and I figured it'd just be turn to the right, hit the fence, and just slide up the racetrack. And I think it caught, like the front went up into the catch fence, and then it spun around like this. So I thought it would be over when I just got run over, and it would just dig into the fence. And I wasn't really expecting it to pirouette upside down like it did. But yeah, I don't know if you're definitely aware that something's fucking wrong, because it starts hurting when you land. But
I always do that. Like when you start flipping, like, I'm driving the car until it stops.
You're crashing, yeah.
On the brakes, off the gas, I usually try and flip the switch when we're crashing. But like I'm always like this.
Yeah.
And when you stop, like you're flying through the air. That's what always worries me, because I always feel like it's like, okay, is it going to nose? Yeah. What's coming next that we don't expect? Because I mean, when I crashed in Cotton Bowl when he was leading, I didn't expect to crash. Like I kind of tapped the wall. I was passing a guy around the outside, and he kind of pushed me a little higher. Well, you tap the wall, and then now you realize, okay, the front's in. Now we're flipping. So you're holding on, but I'm thinking this is going to be hellacious, like huge hit, and then it never comes. But then you also have to worry, is there anyone else coming going to hit you?
Well, and the good thing about sprint cars too is, like, when you hit a tractor tire or whatever, normally the front end just breaks.
Yeah.
You'll break a torsion, or you'll break a drag link or a tie rod or something, where it's not like everything's connected and the steering wheel's lock and your fingers are in the wheel and it jams real hard. But like most of the time, I think the tie rod broke. So there was no steering. I could turn the wheels any way I wanted and didn't control nothing, which is good for your hands, not pulling your hands off the wheel.
Who have you guys? I'm sure that it has to be the answer. Yes. Have you guys ever wrecked each other?
I don't think so.
You never have? In all years,
so. Watch this weekend.
We'll crash each other. Yeah.
Tune in on your vision.
Yeah.
I just jinxed the whole thing.
Yeah.
I can't remember even like being in the same.
I do remember one time. Two times come to mind. We were racing micro sprints, and I was pretty switched on at that point in time. Like I was probably 12 or 13, and he was like 9 or 10, and just moved up to the adult class. They used to invert this big race. Well, I'm driving through, and it's like I keep trying to slide him, but I'm not close enough, and I'm like, fuck it, we're going for it. And I mean, I buried it in on him. Well, by the time I get to him, I've gotten past on the bottom because I just slid him so hard, and we didn't make contact or anything. And then we raced at Hanford. You were racing for like the Hanford Championship, and I don't remember why. Something happened with you and me. Like I think I passed you or something, and
we weren't supposed to do that.
I wasn't supposed to. Like I was like, okay, well, like
what did we have, like team orders?
It was kind of like team orders. I was driving a friend of mine's car, and it was definitely not that, like it wasn't Roth Motorsports stuff, like for sure. But rolled in there and I got by him, and I got by a couple other guys, and the guy that he was racing for in the championship, I get racing him. My steering gear breaks, and I wipe the guy out, like just spin him right the fuck out, and he wins the championship. And I remember thinking like, dude, that looks way worse than what it actually was, because it would have just been whoever was in front of me. Like my steering, it's just gone, and off we go to the racetrack. But sorry, Craig Stidham, for that. But
yeah. And then because you guys are brothers, it looks like the fix was in.
Exactly. And that's one thing, like we talked about it the other day. I race him different than I do everyone else. And we shouldn't, because I don't think he races me any different, but I'm always way more conscious of the space that I give him, because I realize like chances are if we're racing each other, we're either having a really good night or a really bad night, because I'm usually the guy that's in the very front or the very back. I'm not usually like I'm in sixth.
Why is that?
I don't know. I just can't qualify. I'm not a very good qualifier, but I always I try to be way mindful, because there's guys that run you out of room. 90% of them out there will run you out of room. No problem. Not even think twice about it. And you have to race other guys like that, but I always try to be very mindful of the room I give him.
That was on my list, is who's the more aggressive brother. I figured it would be Gio, but
I would think probably maybe not on restarts. I've got my restarts down pretty good.
I think late, like the last year or two, probably I've gotten more aggressive.
Yeah,
I think. But this is, I want to tell everybody this, because this was funny what you asked me. I've thought about this before, but you had never talked about it.
Okay, but hang on. If this happens, it didn't happen.
Oh my God!
All right, go ahead.
At Cotton Bowl, God damn it! You're hearing what I was going to ask.
We got some brother inside joke going on right here.
When you laughed that hard, I was like, I'm not going to say what you think I'm going to say. We walked up to the racetrack, and I think it was Saturday morning or Saturday evening. We're looking at the racetrack, and he's like, "Tonight, coming off turn 4, I'm leading on the bottom. You got a monster run on the top. Are you fucking passing me?" Because he's never won a World of Outlaw race, and that's like the thing he wants to do
tonight, baby.
Yeah,
I hope.
He's like
I will drive down to Missouri and drink Busch Light with you all night.
I can tell you, I would not be racing tomorrow, whether there was a race.
Okay, sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good. So Dom's coming off the bottom, I'm coming off the top, and I have the chance. If I just stay on the gas, I drive by him, or am I going to lift and let him win by a car length? And I'm like, I'm fucking beating you. And he's like, you motherfucker. He's like, dude, you're not going to let me win. He's like, I'm like, do you want me to let you win? He's like, yes, let me win.
You fucking let me win? What the hell?
Yeah. I just was not expecting that to be your answer. I was like, no, I'm not letting you win. Fuck that. I'm passing you.
Then I asked Carson, I said, hey, your brother's leading an outlaw race. I'm like, what do you think? And he's always politically correct. Like it's the most politically correct person. Oh man, I don't know. Like, maybe, I don't know. And I'm like, you'd pass him. He's like, yeah, probably. I'm like, you fucking asshole. Like, dude, I'm telling you right now, if it was the Knoxville Nationals, and I shit you not, or let's not say that. Let's say it's Charlotte, because that would, and he's racing for a championship, and he's got to win this race to win the championship. And I'm burning around the outside of him. I'm not passing him. Like, I'm not doing it, because in my head,
you're the girl dad.
Well, right. I'm like, I win this race.
I wouldn't do it either, but right. Gio would. He'd pass your ass in a heartbeat.
Exactly. I'm like, I'm thinking, I win this race. I've just taken away something special or whatever. And it's like, you know what? Hey, like, we'll run second tonight. And that's all right. But he's like, hey, fuck you. Like,
here's what I say. If I lost by half a car length, and I knew, and then one day we're old, and I'm like, hey, remember that fucking race you won? I let you win, bitch. It would just, I feel like your mind would just explode. Or you'd be like, I don't care.
I'd be like, go tell somebody.
Yeah.
Now I'm fucked.
Yeah,
But like,
everyone
go
knows.
tell everybody, make a post. Like, no one's going to believe
be
you.
like, what race was this? Bullshit. No one remembers it.
That didn't even happen. That was a year, and people forget so quick.
Yeah.
I don't even remember that race, but nah, it don't matter.
What
Let me
mom
win.
and
I don't
dad-
give a shit.
How are mom and dad when you guys are on the track together?
They're
Well,
tense.
shit. My mom, up until I really started traveling racing, she never watched a race. She videoed every single race. So she only,
I've seen those ladies.
Yep. She only ever watched our
camcorders.
races.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
She only ever watched our races through the little camera. And then I started racing out, and she was like, I need to go, because it was great. Like, once I kind of realized like watching film of you not running good will help you. Not like I don't want to watch that because I sucked. Like, I wanted the film. Because like, man, because Dirt Vision, when you're up front, is the only time it shows you.
Yeah.
With that, you're running 15th. You watch every single lap when she videos you. So if she goes to races, she doesn't do it much anymore. I kind of wish she would.
Yeah.
But it's nice
me
to
too.
have that film to watch. It's like football, baseball, whatever, watching film.
Would you rather have that? What's more beneficial as a driver, to have that film? Because again, like just the small dirt tracks in Iowa, wives are doing that all over the place still. Or would it be better to have like an in-car camera?
You know, I've had a handful of in-car cameras, and actually, when Dylan Buswell worked for me, we won right off the bat, started struggling, and at Williams Grove, I'm like, dude, we weren't arguing, we were just seeing two different things. I'm like, man, I feel like I'm really, really tight, like I can't come off the corner. He's like, man, it doesn't look that way. So I put an in-car camera facing right on the steering wheel. You could see the drag link in the tire and stuff. And off both corner exit, you see my hands just turn. And I'm like damn near at 12 o'clock on corner exit. And I'm having to lift to get the thing to turn. And I didn't really notice I was doing it till I watched the in-car camera. So yeah, it's a pain in the dick when you're trying to race and like, oh, well, turn the camera on, or it's dead, or the memory card's full.
Yeah.
Like, it's a pain to have to worry about it. But if you can get it in the right spot, or even, you know,
God, I feel like with the technology, we could do that for you.
I know.
now.
And that's why I wear white, orange suits and white gloves.
Yeah.
That way, if the crew chief says, you're not doing this, hey, bud, you can see my hands where I'm turning the steering wheel.
Well, I hope you
know?
never are driving a car that's not bright orange.
Yeah, exactly.
It's way
It's
easier to
just-
follow
yeah, exactly.
You
Yep.
can't miss the car.
No.
No, well, anymore, like when I watch the Outlaws, like that's all I'm looking for
Mhm.
is
Yeah.
him, and it just pops right out. The problem is I get you and Hodenshield mixed up a little bit now.
Well, I think blue was
having that problem.
Blue is the theme this year because we all went to the driver day and everyone had blue fire suits on. It's like what? But no, like our stuff's primarily orange. Sheldon's car looks great too with blue and orange.
How do you do I was going to ask you this with the diecast because you have to have it in so early.
So
like with
it's-
your paint job
again,
change.
it sucks. So I think we ordered this year's 2024's diecast in December, and with sponsor placement, which we had this car for 3 years, 21, 22, and 23, and we're going to change designs. And anyone knows my boss, we have probably at least 50 race car designs on his phone, all different. Doesn't like any of them. I hate all of them. So it's a pain in the ass to nail it down and get sponsor placement.
Talking about Matt?
Yes.
Okay.
So, this is blue. I mean, we have some really cool designs that will never see the light of day. That design we're actually doing this year was old. It was from like 2021. And we just changed the blue on it. Went to a little bit lighter blue. It was kind of a dark blue like that. Went to a lighter one. And he's like, yep, I like it. So getting sponsor placement, because you have to send the file to them, obviously. And then it's 2 or 3 months to them to get the prototype. And then you got to get the box design. So and that's why it becomes such a pain in the ass, because when someone comes on board in February and says, I want my name on the diecast, but this was ordered 2 months
That's
ago.
what I was going to ask.
You're
So
done. I'm
I
sorry.
have that situation right now. On the front of this wing should be sander wheel, and all these wheels should be sander wheels. They're welds.
Yep.
And that's because when I put this order in, and I don't even remember when I put it in,
Probably August, September last year, I bet.
probably pretty close to that. I could probably go look back and see, but something like that, there was not even an idea of what we were going to do wheel wise. Like we had talked vaguely about it, and at that point wasn't going to happen. Now I've got a big sponsorship from a awesome company. They don't get the wheels on the car. They miss that out, and that's just off of time frame, and that's a bummer because as much as I love the look of the car, it's not authentic. It's not the same wheels, which is a bummer. But oh well.
So Dominic, you're driving out west with the NARC series, but you're clearly hit or miss. I've seen you on some high limit stuff. Are you just picking and choosing? What's the rest of your schedule like this year?
Yeah, so it started off, I was filling in for the 83 team while they were waiting for McFadden to get his visa or whatever, and that got resolved, which is great. So I get to run my car this weekend as well as on Tuesday with High Limit. So I'll run the Outlaws this weekend, High Limit on Tuesday, fly home, daughter's birthday. We're going to attempt to race the weekend at home, but I just honestly don't know if it's going to happen. I'm going to be driving a friend of ours car, but it fell off a cliff It came off the trailer. You got the pictures?
Yeah,
It
I
fell
was-
off a cliff.
Fell off cliff. So they're
like
driving.
you're not being like.
I know. No,
Well,
it fell off the freeway.
He
Like,
texts me and that doesn't say anything, just sends me these pictures. And I'm like, with no caption.
Holy shit! Yeah, send these to me. I want to put them on Twitter. The car is literally.
That's the car I'm
And
gonna.
he
gonna
goes,
try to drive.
He goes, that car was going to our shop from Oakhurst. I'm like,
it was
no way.
It was done. The car was done. So
How does that happen?
Our guys are leaving, and so
Good
basically
question.
Jimmy, my crew chief, he's like, I just want to.
Did they not latch the?
They didn't tie it down.
Oh my!
It was in an open trailer, and it didn't get tied
It was
down.
in an open. Okay.
So
It's funny now. It wasn't funny at the time.
it's still not very funny, but it'll be funny.
Somebody's
if we do well.
fired.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm talking to Ashley Smith, who owns the Zero Team, which is a very famous car. I've driven it once before, and this was the race we wanted to run it because it was a big event, and their cars are similar to ours. It was actually an ex-Roth car, so my seat will fit right in it. Everything's all set up, and I'm like, hey, just bring it a week before we leave. We'll drop an engine in it. We'll have it all buttoned up. We'll have it ready to go. All right, no problem. I'll be down in like an hour. Cool. Calls me 45 minutes later, and he's like, hey, mate, we've got a minor setback. I'm like, what's up? And I'm driving to my shop after work.
Setback?
And he goes, hey, so
I need to see a major setback.
so they bought my wing, the top wing from us. They bought wheels from me. This car is all carbon fiber. Like, it's a beautiful race car. He's like, yeah, so that wing I bought you, I need another one. I'm like, okay, yep. And what's the setback? He's like, oh yeah, the car that I'm bringing you is 50 feet down a hill. He's got the video of it getting towed back up. They shut down Highway 41. This fucking car is all the way down this hill. So they've shut down the freeway to get it back.
Well, better down the hill than killing somebody.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah. I
I mean, not for the car,
the
but
car's okay. I don't
yeah,
care.
saying it could be worse.
yeah. I mean, I'm very thankful that it didn't hit someone else. I mean, what my fear would have been was like if it came off and went into oncoming traffic, you're definitely going to kill somebody.
Yeah.
Like you're definitely
that's
going
what
to
I
kill
was
somebody.
talking about. Like,
So thank God that didn't happen. It just completely totaled everything. Rear end, front end, wings, wheels. The frame was twisted. They had to fix the frame. So I just got this fucking thing the day before I flew out. And there's a lot of work. So that's why I say I don't know if I'm going to race next weekend. But yeah, so my schedule after we get home in May, the beginning of May, is I'll run my car and just pretty much just run wherever we plan on running. We don't really have a set schedule, but we're going to hit all the big money stuff on the West Coast, Outlaws, High Limit.
yeah.
And then, the Dirt Cup is a big event that pays $62,000 now. We won that in 2021, which was really cool. Like I was actually racing Mark Dobmeyer.
Yeah.
I was filling in for Mark because he broke his back.
I remember that.
So
He was the Buffalo Wild Wings
Yes,
car, right?
yeah.
Yep, okay.
I got free wings off of that program. That was the best ride I've ever had.
There you go.
And so I'm filling in for him. And as we're flying out to go drive the car, me and my crew chief's like, hey, why don't we have Garrett, who was working for us at the time, drive our trailer up to Washington and we'll run the Dirt Cup? Because that's like the biggest race. Like there is no bigger race in the Pacific Northwest than the Dirt Cup. And I'm like, dude, it's a Monday or a Sunday or whatever. I'm like, we don't even have anything ready to go. He goes, it'll be fine. So we send him up there. Instead of us flying home, we fly to Washington. My wife is 12 months pregnant at this point in time. And she's like, if you
12 months pregnant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn.
That's really pregnant.
if you miss our daughter being or our child being born because we didn't know what we were having, like don't worry about coming home. Like you better either win or not miss the birth. And
No
so
pressure.
we go up there. Her dad's with me, so it's not even like her dad's going there. It's like, yep, we're going racing. Fuck it. we win the damn thing. We win like the biggest race in Washington. Fly home. The next week we have our kid, so it worked out perfect.
That's good. So, okay, I'm fascinated by this. I've read all these things about how like Formula One will like rent these cargo planes and fly the shit all over the world. When your 41 car, you flew in, I'm assuming commercial, like last night or
Yep.
whatever. Where is that car? Who's driving that? Who's hauling that thing around for you?
So unfortunately, you can't get the seatbelt extender and take it with you. You gotta pack it in the trailer. So my guys left in February, the end of February, to come back here, and they've basically been staying hotel to hotel the entire time.
Oh,
I fly back and forth because my full-time job is a freight broker. So I'm a full-time freight broker,
Yeah.
and I race on for fun on the weekends and just happen to it's like a side gig kind of thing. But our sponsors make it to where it's a full-time race team. I'm just racing on the weekends. So I fly in and out, and like this week I stay till Wednesday morning and I fly home, and then I'll be home for the weekend, fly back on like Monday, and I'll be here for a week again, race, and then our stuff drive home. So it's tough. Since 2020, that's kind of what I've been doing, is flying back and forth. And the whole reason why I stopped doing that was just because it's taxing. It's very hard. It's hard to get stuff done. Like I was telling him, like I have an incredibly important meeting at noon our time here, and I like no matter what, I can't miss it. So I'm making him pull over on the side of the road so I can have this meeting, because at the end of the day, that's what pays my bills, and this is just kind of like the bonus money on top of it. So although it's fun, and on the West Coast we've had great success over the last few years. The race car gets parked if we have to work and there's business. And there's been times where I've missed races before because I just can't get away.
Yeah, no, I totally understand that. Do you have any questions you want to ask Big Brother? Put him on the spot.
I'm sure he's got.
Oh, you have one for me?
I'm going to change it up here.
Okay.
So I've had just an infatuation with promoting races here lately.
Yeah.
Local races, outlaw races. For you, obviously you're a race fan. What makes like Knoxville races every Saturday night? There's only 3 outlaw shows a year if you count nationals. What makes you say I'm going to the races this weekend? Like over an outlaw show to a local show, does it matter for you? Or you say I have an open weekend, I'm going to the races?
For me now, I don't know if I'm the best person to ask that question to, because for me it's about where my friends are racing.
Yep.
So I have a guy races late models locally. He does a regional series, Charlie McKenna. If like you're around, if he's racing, I'll likely hit those. But if not, like the streaming's made it so I don't go out to the track as much. And I don't like saying that because I know it pisses promoters off some. I will say this though, and you will get this soon. Now that my daughters are older, I'm gonna go out a lot more.
Yeah.
And
because they're able to go with you.
Yes. And I will take them more, not to the pits. I'll never take them to the pits. Because I know what happens.
Because they'll be like, ooh, I want to sit in the car. And then, hey, Dad, when can we get one?
Hey, that driver's cute.
That's the problem.
Even worse. Yeah, exactly.
There's something about taking these young girls to the pits, and then they become like intoxicated by the sounds and I don't want them marrying a racer. I'm sorry. Been around racers long enough. I'm not letting my daughters marry one of you guys.
Not a bad decision.
But like for that, like I would definitely take my daughters if I was going to take them to like a Saturday night Knoxville show. Right. I wouldn't want to take them to the Knoxville Nationals. I wouldn't want to. But yeah, like for me, it's more about like I've just been around for so long now. Right. So Dominic, I announced at tracks around the Midwest for a long time. Mm-hmm. So I just have a lot of friends, and that's really what drives me more so than the fun of it. But I'll basically if you're going to get me out to a race, it's going to be a special anymore. I just don't do the weekly.
Yeah.
Especially it's on Dirt Vision at Knoxville. I hate saying that because I don't want to like deter these people to stream them, but like I'm really busy, right? I got kids, I'm running these companies. Right. If I'm going to go out to a race, it'll be because the Outlaws are here. It's going to be the Flow Night in America thing. They come around and I can watch all my late model guys that I don't get to see very often. Like that's about when I get out.
Well, I think real quick, like racing around the country, whenever I go to a sprint car race, I'm racing. Very rarely, like I'll go watch you race, but dude, when you're not racing, it's like I'm bored. So when I'm not watching him race, so like there are so many fans I meet across the country that are like, dude, the Outlaws are in town. I saw this. I'm coming. Like this is like Kennedale. That was the first Outlaw show. One of the first 410 shows they ever had. And this guy's like, dude, I would not miss this for the world. I don't care. I'm taking work off. Doesn't matter. I'm going to the races. So it's cool to see, like, obviously our stands are packed a lot of times, but the passion like fans have. And I feel like when I go to the races, obviously when you're not involved, when you go somewhere and you're racing every night or you show up at 3:00 or whatever, and you're racing, you're doing something, going and watching becomes kind of tough. Unless you have someone to play for, like you said.
I would say this is an example for promoters out there if anybody's paying attention. So my parents have a place down at the Lake of the Ozarks, which is not
watching that series right now, by the way. Don't ruin it for me.
Oh, it's amazing.
Season 2, episode 1.
Dude, it gets better. There's Wheatland is not very far from there. So there's Lake Ozark, and then Wheatland is like 45 minutes down the road. And it's always the same weekend as the Show Me when we go down there for Memorial Day. Kids are out of school. Dad and I would always just jaunt down to the Show Me on Saturday night. I know one of the announcers. He gets his pit passes. We walk around. Beautiful facility, whatever. I stopped going. I won't go anymore because they do it. This is where these promoters need to watch it as far as the stream versus the fan experience, because they string that thing out. Like for them, the A is starting at 10:30 or 10 o'clock, no matter what. And we'll watch hot laps start at like 5:30 or 6, and then they'll work the track, and then we're going to do like 2 B features, and then and there's like an hour between everything.
Yeah.
And they do it, and it was all, I don't know if it'll be the case now, but it was also like Mav TV could go live at 10 o'clock. And I took my nephew there. It's like his first big late model race. And he hated it. Like, he had a terrible time because it's all, like, you've got to like take care of the people that are there.
Yeah.
In the stands where they will quit going. Guys like me, we want to go. I want to hear the horsepower. I want to smell the gas. I want dirt in my beer.
Yep.
I want all that stuff. But it's also a deal like, if I was watching that at home, well, I could be watching Monaco
or you go take a shower, eat dinner, and turn it back on.
Yeah, the beer's cheaper. I don't got to drive. All that stuff. So there's like this fine line of, like, I know we're trying to grow the sport by streaming, which I'm all for.
Yep. And
I would tell any promoter it's a good idea to do that. But you also have to take care of the people that are buying the tickets. And it's just that show me every time I go to that, we could be out of there by 9.
Yeah.
Well,
Instead, they just string it out just for the TV purpose, and it's exhausting.
I think efficiency is number one with promoters. Yeah. That's what should be number one. I mean, there's times where I think it's hilarious, like at Cotton Bowl. Rain was in the area. Rain's imminent. Like, we got to go. We started at 6:30. We're done at 9:30.
Phenomenal surface, phenomenal product, phenomenally run show.
How do we just somehow run a show this fast and then not shit talking Wichita? We had support classes. There was crashing. A lot of stuff went on, but we're leaving at 11 o'clock at night. Like, how do these shows get drug out so long? And for, like you said, people going to the races, for race teams and even kids, if you leave with your daughters at 10 o'clock, hey, early night, you're driving an hour. You're not home till 11. They're in bed at 12, 1 in the morning. Then they're ready to go. You got to give them a bath. Like it's 2-3 hours longer. And then if we're driving 2 hours after the races, they're at a car wash at 1 in the morning, washing till 2, in bed at 3, wake up at 9, work on the race cars. It's insane to see, like, and how hard it is. Like, I don't understand how, when there's rain in the area, we somehow magically run a show in 3 hours. And then when it's not, it's like, oh yeah, well, fireworks and doing other stuff. Like,
it's another thing that at the show me. So there's like a local or a regional modified series that's always, and it's a great series. Like, heavy hitters are there. It's good money, and they won't even let those guys on the track until after the late models are done. Right. Which they could be running this really solid support class in between all this shit, but instead, it's a terrible experience when you're there. Right. So we got to find a way to meet in the middle.
I think really, this is a very long, drawn out conversation with this whole scenario here, because I look at it like this is politics is really what it comes down to. Is, to me, my viewpoint on it is, I want a show that starts at 7 and is done at 9. I want 1 or 2 classes, 2 max, 3 is pushing it, 4 is never. I don't even think that racetracks should have a series. Like, when we come to the Midwest, these racetracks, they're not as wet as what they are in California. So it takes a little bit longer for a California track to come in. But like tonight, if I was promoting, what my viewpoint
it's going to be cold.
It's going to be a little cold. What my viewpoint would be is, I want to have the World of Outlaws, and I want to have Metal Militia or Monster Trucks or something that is not a motorsport with us. And here's why. Because we hot lap and we qualified back to back and we're done. So now the racetrack's sitting where we've got our 8-minute, 10-minute or whatever. Make that a 20-minute break before we race, and let's bring out Metal Militia and let's have them do warm up.
At Charlotte this last year at World Finals, because there's a million classes, they were doing backflips on dirt bikes in the infield. It was awesome.
That's exactly what they should be doing.
They're working on the car. I'm like, dude, this is badass. Like, slow the horn. I'm serious. It was awesome.
And that's something I've said for years they should be doing.
Pass the time. Yeah,
exactly.
Well, I just remember this night you said that. The Tusky 50 last year, they rescheduled it for Thursday before the Outlaw show. We were not allowed to race because we had 4 shows, whatever. And I'm sitting in my t-shirt trailer, and this nice girl comes up. She's like, hey, I'm a big fan. Bought a t-shirt. I'm like, where are you from? Mechanicsburg. I'm like, oh, do you go to Williams Grove? Yeah, blah, 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 whatever. She's like, yeah, I don't like going to Lincoln because they run their show too fast. She says, I got to drive an hour and a half there. I only get to watch racing for 2 hours, and I got to drive an hour and a half home. And I'm like, they run their show too fast.
I've never heard a race.
I was like, and she was like befuddled why I was so confused. I'm like, they run there. She's like, yeah, I want to hang out at the races like for hours and like watch racing. I'm like, dude, I would be applauding him. If someone said that I run my show too fast, I'd be like, thanks. I'm going to run it faster next time.
And you got to think about it this way. And that's why I say it's like politics, because it's not cut and dry. It's not, you need to run a faster show and you need less people, because the first argument is, okay, well, I'm a promoter. I need still a little bit of backgate money because I have to do beer. Exactly. I got to sell beer. Food. The racetrack needs some attention. All these different aspects that you can't just solve in a blanket statement. But
I had Knoxville all pissy with me about 10 years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I was writing racing columns for the Des Moines Register, and that it was back when they decided to pull the Nationals off of speed. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
It used to be this iconic
It was an event. Yeah.
In my argument towards them, and they've come around, and it's on Dirt Vision and all that stuff. But like, had those races not been on speed for as long as they were, I don't think we'd have the crowds that we do now.
I agree.
Yeah.
Because a guy like me, I did not watch sprint cars growing up. They didn't exist where I lived.
Right.
In Southwest Iowa, we were all Nebraska is all late models.
Right.
And my hometown track was a late model NASCAR.
What was your track?
Adams County Speedway down in Corning, Iowa. Big half-mile paperclip.
Right.
We don't bring sprint cars there. There's not even walls.
Right.
Like, it's just cornfields in the back.
Well, that's funny you say that, because you probably wouldn't like my view. Is I think that they need to do a blackout at every racetrack in the United States, blackout 100 miles radius, and you can watch the replay the next day. But if you're over 100 miles, you can watch. But if you're not, you can't.
So I think we should meet in the middle. And I thought Schatz had a great point of view when we had him on the show. That like to me, I would pay more for Dirt Vision.
Absolutely,
I would pay more for Flow. Because I recognize, like, if I knew Knoxville was getting $5 more from my subscription, I would do it, because I'm not going there and buying their marked up beer, and I get it all.
Or what you do is you have to buy a nightly pass. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that.
And that's what I do. So my buddy Charlie, the late model series, I pay $24.99 every time.
Yep.
Every race.
Yep.
To support it, because I would like to go to the track, but it's 6 hours away in Nebraska. I'll pay the $24.99.
Yeah.
It's a hell of a lot cheaper,
right?
Well,
and I want to
there's got to be a working relationship between these streaming companies and the tracks.
Yes,
because if the tracks aren't getting their cut,
right,
and it's not getting trickled down to the drivers by any means, then the streaming company's not going to have a business either.
Well, and I'm telling you, I want to take a bat to some of these fans, and I'm going to get ridiculed for this, but I don't even care. When I see on Facebook, oh, I'm dropping my Flow subscription because now it's, another $50 a year. You get to watch hundreds of races at the click of a button.
It's amazing.
Hundreds, not 5 or 6.
And great coverage too. It's not shitty quality.
Coverage.
Yeah.
You get to watch the replays for free. You get all this amazing stuff, and you're complaining. If you went to 5 races a year, just you have outspent your Flow. What do you mean?
Yeah. Well, look at
it's ridiculous.
It's way more, but I
agree.
I think Dirt Vision's $300 a year. Say the Outlaws are 100 races a year. They're not that many. That's $3 a race.
Yeah, but
you get late models, you get dirt car, Husitz, Knoxville, Williams Grove, Attica, Sharon, all this stuff. It's like cents.
And by no means are we saying that it's not a big cost or expensive or whatever, because the $300 that's not chump change for a lot of families out there. But for what you're getting, you have to be absolutely insane to think that you're not getting a phenomenal deal.
Mark up the annual pass to like a whatever we want to put it at, and then also give people the pay-per-view option.
Yeah.
So it's like if I'm a Geo fan, but I can technically, I'm only going to have time to watch 6 races this year, where I have the option to do that. Kind of like what they do with Knoxville now.
Absolutely.
Right. You have to have like the pay-per-view pass with that. I guess my big thing is, it's a lot like college athletics racing is. Hear me out. We're going real deep here. Aiden, perk up your ears over there. You'll like this. So like, the problem with college athletics compared to like the pros, compared to NASCAR, put it in racing terms, is that everybody in college athletics is looking out for themselves. Right. So in the NFL has one commissioner who's looking out for all the different owners of all these teams. And that commissioner makes decisions based on the betterment of everybody.
Because if the NFL wins, everyone wins. Correct.
In racing, this has always been my problem. This is why I freaking hate the high limit thing. Okay. And I will scream about this. I don't care if you go there. It's less interesting to me now. I'm a late model guy. I've always been like, well, I like Tim McCready, but I also like Bobby Pierce. And then Moyer's over here. It
dilutes it.
It dilutes everything. And I think that racing has this huge opportunity now. More people are watching grassroots racing than ever because of the streaming thing, right? But it only makes sense business-wise if we start getting bigger sponsors on these cars.
Absolutely.
Right? Well, the problem is now we're diluting our audience. So the big sponsors, it's like,
where do they go?
What? Yeah, like, well, I would like to be in the old Outlaws series where all the top guys are racing together, but now the audience is fractured. We can only watch so many races per year, even a sicko like me, right? Like I can't watch everything.
The wife is going to get pissed at some point.
Well, and like I'm a huge Atlanta Braves fan, okay? 10 years ago, I didn't miss many Braves games. I always had it on in the background. Not anymore. I've got some random modified feature in Wyoming on because I'd rather have the race cars in the background, right? But I don't know how we do it, but I would love to see a deal where these racing series in some capacity, like NASCAR, right? Like where there's an owner, in theory, and I know the owners in NASCAR would probably argue with me, but they're looking out for everybody in the betterment of the sport, where I just feel like with what you guys do, everybody has to you have to kill to eat, right? And it's so individualized. And now these series are like competing with one another. And I've always seen like the tracks are like fighting with the series. And now we've got these streaming people involved and like, oh, who's getting a fair cut? And I don't know what the answer is, but I'm just looking at it like, I study sports business more than I know a lot more about that than I do what kind of tire to put on.
Right.
I don't see this ending well.
So
I hope I'm wrong.
I think of it the same as like, how did kart IRL work out? It didn't work out for anybody. I mean, it killed the sport completely. I don't think we're going to see it kill the sport. But what I do see happening, and honestly, there is going to be a winner and there's going to be a loser. There's no question about it.
I agree.
This is right now is great for guys like me because I have no affiliation.
Yeah,
with
you can pick and choose.
I can race where I want, where I think I'm going to do the best, and it splits the competition down a little bit.
Yeah.
So I should make a little bit more money, which is great for me. But when I look at top teams, or like let's say I'm KCP Racing and I've just lost $100,000 sponsor, I have to replace that sponsor, and my cost is continuing to go up. So when I'm pitching this idea of racing with the best series in the world, the first argument you're going to get is, what about High Limit?
Yeah.
They have Brad Sweet, they have Kyle Larson and Sunshine and all these guys. And, it makes that argument a lot harder when
I would also
you
say
have two series that are national.
Flip the other way too. It's like they got all those guys, but they're not the World of Outlaws.
No,
there's no
100%.
brand awareness there.
And that's why I say, whoever's going to win is going to be off of their marketing and their product alone. I don't think it's going to be a money thing because they both have money. They're both spending money. But, at the end of the day, I don't know how the Outlaws don't win this in the long run because they've been through this 2 or 3 times. They had the USA, they had the NSL or NST.
Was that the Steve Kinzer one?
Yes, that was with Steve Kinzer, Daniel
Steve
Osofsky,
Beitler,
all those guys. I don't know how it works yet full time. I don't think there's enough room. But the other argument is the late model guys do it, and there seems to be success because they race for way more money than we do.
Yeah. Well, I think that my selfish way of looking at it, not really a financial way of looking at it, is it sucks because I want to go to Port Royal. We don't go to Outlaws don't go to Port Royal because whatever happened, High Limit's going to Port Royal. We don't get to go to Lakeside. Obviously, I go good at Lakeside, but I like Lakeside. Gold Cup is the biggest race in California without question. A race I grew up watching, a race I want to win. I don't get to race it this year because of High Limit. And you can say,
we'll never race it again.
We'll go run High Limit. I mean, it's not that simple. Like Brad obviously owns a racetrack now and promotes a racetrack. So that side of it, because I feel like the Outlaws do have this heritage of these big races. It was always a big 4: Knoxville, Kings Royal, National Open, and Gold Cup. Those are the big 4 races of the year. And now Gold Cup's not there anymore. So it does change the dynamic. And, obviously Gold Cup pays $100,000. So whoever wins is going to say, I don't really care. I cash a check for $100,000. But it does change the dynamic of how it feels because I think racing sport is so much history. Who's won these races? The pillars in Knoxville. I mean, I would kill to have my name on the pillar of guys that have won the Knoxville Nationals. Like that means something, And I think with the split, again, always going back to High Limit, but it does dilute it, I feel like, a little bit, and not being able to run some of those races does kind of suck.
Well, I'll tell you this. This is really interesting. See, this is how big of a sicko is. I got a Red Bull on my phone. I just got a notification from the XR Plus app. Okay. Now, I admittedly am not normal. So I have subs to Flow, Dirt Vision, XR. Yeah, like this Dirt Crown. I'm always buying the
Footfinder.
When are you starting your OnlyFans page? Is that I would spread caution to them.
Yeah.
There's more guys like my dad he has a Dirt Vision sub, but he's like, I'm only getting one.
Yeah.
Right. There's more people in our sport. We are a blue collar sport at the grassroots level. These fans don't have hundreds of thousands of dollars of expendable income. I would warn at least Flow has they do wrestling, they do gymnastics, they have all this other stuff. And I would make the argument that Dirt Vision, they own the series too. So they're both supporting one another. But like, don't take the fans for granted, because they can't do and support everything. Now, I also think like if I'm an Outlaws guy, but if High Limit was at Marshalltown, I would go watch.
Absolutely.
Because they're there. It's still great racing. I'd like to support Marshalltown. Like, I would be there. Like, I'm not gonna like boycott it. But again, you're talking to a diehard guy here.
Right.
There might be a guy out there that's just a diehard Geo guy, and he's only gonna go where Geo goes. And like, you do not take these fans for granted, because we are a blue collar sport. We're not Formula One fans.
Yeah. But also at the same time, don't take the race teams for granted. Like,
Yes.
I'm a racing socialist through and through. Like, I look at these 100,000 to win races, and I'm going to say now, I don't know what the purse is going to be for the Skagit 100,000. I don't know what it's going to be for Gold Cup. I don't know. So I'm not pointing them out, but I am saying that it's a slap in the face for 5th place to 24th when you pay 100 grand to win, 20,000 for second, 10,000 for third,
2,000 to start.
2,000 to start. Are you fucking for real?
Yeah.
Are you serious? Like, I'm telling you right now, the way it should be done is like the Knoxville Nationals.
Yeah.
It's 10,000 to start, or what is it?
I think Knoxville's 15,000 to start.
15,000 to start
it's
now.
10,000. Fifth in the B, I believe, is like $8,000 or $10,000. Where can you miss a show and make 10 grand?
Exactly. And they can't all be the Knoxville Nationals. But if I'm going to have a marquee event, I'm telling you right now, you don't have to find more money.
No.
Take your 100,000 to win, cut it down to 50 grand to win, and take that other 50 and make it 4 grand to start or something. Now these guys that are trying to make it by, that's a huge hit in the pocket for them, which would make me want to go, I've got 200,000 to win races on the West Coast, and they both pay 4 grand to start or 5 grand to start or whatever. Why would I not go there when I'm looking at this other 100,000 to win race that pays 2,000 to start on the same weekend or whatever? I'm definitely going where it pays more to start, to run 10th, to run 5th, because at the end of the day, only one guy wins. And I really think that the top guys in the sport should be looking at that more as well, because even if you win 100 grand to win race, Buddy Kofoid leading 100 or 250 grand,
to win,
and he blows an engine with 2 to go, and he made
Here's
$15.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh my God. Well, and that's the thing too. And being a late model guy, I'm obsessed with car counts. You sprint guys always make fun of us for that. But the reason we're obsessed with car counts is because we didn't grow up with a series like the Outlaws where you knew exactly who was showing up. Right. We would I'm going to go to Knoxville to the UMP show, and you want cars.
Yeah.
So what you're saying, if the middle to backfield guys don't show up, and you have a $100,000 to win race and 13 cars are there, it's not that exciting.
Right. Well, like tonight's going to have a lot of race cars. I guarantee you tonight there's going to be
There'll be 45
probably
cars,
45 cars. Of those 45, there's probably going to be 35 guys that could legitimately win tonight, and not a single person would bat an eye about it. Like, no one would be surprised. But how do you get that every time? Because next week, once we get back to the split, you're not going to have that opportunity. So how do you maximize that? You bump up the middle to the back, and the start money's gone up a little bit and the win money's gone up a little bit, which is great, and it needs to. But to me, taking care of your guys that are filling the race, that's what it needs to be. And that's what I've pushed for with the NARC series at home is, hey, I want to race for 5 grand to win every night, but wouldn't it be great if we paid 800 to start instead of 500?
Isn't that too where the streaming can help? Because I'll be honest, I don't think, from a guy who runs a few marketing budgets, like, it's not Main Street enough yet where I think we're going to be like, oh, Busch Light's going to be knocking on your door just because of the streaming numbers, right? Maybe they want to get it right. Like, it's isn't there a way, and I have no idea how many subscribers that these companies have, but we're going to charge like an extra $2 a month, and like that's all going to the teams,
right?
Like, I don't know how that works.
I mean, I
don't even know how it adds up, if it would even put a dent, but I know I would support it.
Yeah. And I think that's what Brad's trying with the charter thing.
It seems
I don't
that
know
way.
how it works.
I mean, I think it's a slippery slope a little bit, I feel like, because look at like t-shirts. Okay. We get to sell t-shirts. Platinum members get to sell t-shirts at World of Outlaw events. They take nothing from our sales,
which is huge.
Show me another national NASCAR, IndyCar, however, I guarantee these sanctioning bodies take a percentage of sales. The food sales, I don't know how that works, but for us, and they've said as long as Carlton's there, he said they will never take a percentage of t-shirt sales, which is massive. How easy would it be for them to say, hey, we're taking 20% of gross sales or 10% of gross sales? Hey, NASCAR does it. We're going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think like with the streaming thing, look at like NASCAR. I feel like, okay, this chase thing. If Fox Sports 1 goes the Outlaws, we're going to buy Dirt Vision. Every race is going to be live on Fox Sports 1. Cool. Man, your guys' format's kind of boring. Why don't you guys do a chase series? Hey, we're giving you $20 million. You're going to do whatever we say you're going to do. And they're going to say, hey, boys, We have a chase series now. So, I mean, at what point do you want these big corporations? Because if they're giving you money, they're going to want to have a say in what this is and say, hey, your viewership might not be where it is. Hey, we're changing your format. We're changing your point structure. Because what are you going to do? Say
There's
no?
going to be a green, white checkered at every race from now on. Are you fucking kidding me?
Triple wide restarts.
I don't think what you guys do translates to national TV.
I don't think it ever could work.
Never could.
No,
And it never has in the past.
It's just too unpredictable.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, and then rain, you have to factor that
Yep.
in. I mean, like I was talking about with the Show Me example,
Yeah.
like you run too many races too. Like
if someone
I'm
flips
just saying,
out
like,
of the park, pulls the fence down. You know?
NASCAR's doing this new TV deal coming up, and the teams get a portion of the TV deal. Like, I don't know exactly what it is, but they do. It's part. And I'm just saying, like, I don't know what you ask for, and I don't even know what the driver. But I think that's got to be part of this deal going forward. Otherwise, it's going to be like what you said, Dom, with the blackout thing or what. It's got, like, maybe these tracks get X%. And I don't even know how that works because the schedules just aren't consistent enough with what you guys do. It changes so much. But we got to find a way to make the streaming dollars, I think, go up and then return it to the drivers. Like, to me, like, see, that's the only way this thing works long term.
Yeah, I think definitely, not even just the drivers, but just the payout in general.
Yeah,
making sure that, because now, like, we're talking about a war. Like, one thing that I'm an Outlaw guy through and through. I love the Outlaws, but one thing that just kills me is High Limits doing the right thing by letting anyone and everyone sell at their events. Their guys get priority parking and all that, but then everyone else can sell. That's huge for a guy like me. Like, I can't sell at a World of Outlaw event. Why? I support the series. Like, I'm coming to race. Charge me 10%. Charge me 20%. Whatever.
Give you the option.
Give me the option to try and get my merchandise out there, because maybe I want to be an outlaw. And if I'm not selling my diecast, and that little kid whose dad works at Alba or whose dad works at, Logan Contracting, buys that car and his kid talks about it all the time. And it's like, hey, we got some budget left over. Like, maybe let's look at marketing a sprint car. That's how this shit happens.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it sounds like I'm making it up, but that is how it happens. And, there's sponsors on our car that have come to races that, Fuel Delivery Service was one of them. They bought us a couple drums of fuel, and then they started coming to the races 15 years ago. And his grandson comes and goes, you have free fuel for life. As long as I'm alive, your race car will never buy a drum, a gallon, anything of methanol. And that's because his grandson came to the race. They bought my shirts. They got to see some stuff in the trailer. They got to watch the race, and then they go, okay, I want to help Dominic Scelzi. And that's where I think the Outlaws are missing it a little bit with that.
Yeah.
But you have to promote your drivers and really promote your entire series as the drivers. NHRA has nobody. When John Force retires or is done, I mean, I love Austin.
We might have to go race.
Honest to God, we might have to go be drag racers, or maybe me, because you're a sprint car guy. But
please don't. I don't know if I could support you guys.
Well, that's the problem. Is, I mean,
you guys have got to teach me about drag. So one form of racing that I've never gotten into ever.
Dude, I tell you what, if we keep doing this podcast, we'll have Austin on, and you'll be
you'll want to go.
Yeah,
you'll want to go.
I'm not anti-drag racing.
Right.
I just don't understand it. Like, I don't understand like the skill of it. Like, I'm sure there is. I'm not downplaying it, but
there are some that aren't skilled. But
I tell you what, when you meet Austin, you'll be like, that guy has to drag race.
He's a drag
because
racer.
I mean, like, how do you, he's like dad. Like,
he's a drag racer.
I mean, I don't know. We gotta have him on.
It's just like Dale Earnhardt was a NASCAR driver. Like, Dale Earnhardt could not have gone and raced Formula One.
No,
wouldn't have worked.
He would have beat all their asses.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
That's what I'm saying.
Hey, come here, French boy.
Exactly. Hey, Frenchie. Like, how are you going to do the bump and run? That front wing isn't going to work in a bump and run. You know what I mean? So,
What is it? Give me a quintessential drag racer.
Oh my God. A person, drag racer. Oh my God. Well,
living life a quarter mile at a time.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, no, like I think the biggest thing is the sheer reaction time they have. I mean, they have the little simulators with the Christmas tree.
That's the big skill in that sport,
For sure it is. Okay. But I mean, if you have a 12,000 horsepower car, they can't dyno them. They don't know how much horsepower they really make because they can only tell how much horsepower they make per cylinder. And they're 8 cylinders, 1,200 horsepower per cylinder, about 12,000 horsepower. They go 1,000 foot in under 4 seconds.
It's insane.
At 340 miles an hour. Like, when you tell, like,
what's the G-force like in that?
I think it's 5 when you accelerate and 6 when you pull the parachute backwards. God. So you're 5 Gs this way and then 6 Gs that way. And you wonder why they have brain damage after they get done racing.
Yeah,
they
like CTE and stuff like that.
Stuff.
Yeah. Well, you never even think about that, but it makes sense.
Yeah.
You go to your local drag strip and they got under a 10-second car. That's fast to go to a quarter mile. You watch a top fuel car go down the racetrack and then you watch a 10-second car, you're like, good God, when's this thing gonna get to the finish line? Like they've done stuff with top fuel cars where a top fuel car hits the gas for 1 second. They go 0 to 100 under a second. They hit the gas for 1 second, and this Mustang or Lamborghini or whatever, like the top fuel car hits the gas for a second and coasts the rest of the way and is half a track ahead of a car.
Will that aspect of racing ever be huge again? Like, or
honestly, I think Austin will be able to tell us the inner workings of it because, man, I think it's so much with NHRA, and I'm not involved, of the old guard. Like NHRA has been the same way forever. For 50 years, it's been exactly the same. And John Force has raced 48 of those years. I think they have to have a major restructuring because for them, it's always, how do we make the cars cheaper to run? How about you bring more money into the sport? Don't worry about making the cars cheaper. Bring more sponsorship to give the guys what they're worth.
Like Austin has the best personality of almost everybody in that sport. Like
100%.
Great personality. He went to culinary school. He's a chef. And like I've said for
and
years,
he can build a race car from the ground up.
He can do every single aspect on that race car. He can do it all. He can do the body work. He can do the clutch. He can do everything. Heads,
blowers, everything.
Blowers, the whole shebang. And to me, what I've always said, my dad had Scelzi Says, and he was funny and he was witty and he had this little show, and that was huge for his viewership. How in the fuck does Austin Prock not have a cooking show that every week he does a little thing at home and he's like, hey, you know, the Quarter Mile Kitchen, and he's cooking, and you know, it's
good. That's good.
Today I'm making whatever.
I could never have come up with that. That's phenomenal.
Honest to God, like, I mean, it drives me crazy because I love drag racing because that's what we grew up in.
Yeah, I get it.
I have no interest in driving it, and you know, I only watch it now because of Austin and Ron Capps and J.R. Todd and some friends of ours that, you know, we've grown up with. But like, I look at it, you guys are missing the boat so fucking bad. Like, how could you not be marketing a guy that's like this or other guys that are doing other shit?
Yeah.
You know, I don't even know what these other guys are doing because they don't even talk about it.
Well, I mean, and I'm as big of a gearhead as you can find. And if you would have told me name some formula or name some drag racers, I would know your guys' dad, obviously. Yep. I would know John Force and Ron Capps. And I don't think I could have named another drag racer prior to today. It's just, and it's not that, again, I'm not anti. It's just, I just think
never exposed. Right.
I've never been exposed to it.
Like what these guys are trying to market are not what is fascinating about the sport. Like everyone wants to take you on the starting line. Look how loud they are and how the bang is. And that's really cool. But the first thing I do is I take you to the end of the racetrack and I would put you right at the lights and say, okay, now when this car starts to move, I want you to notice when you hear them. And these cars leave.
Oh, yeah.
Then you hear the sound.
The sound is behind the race car. They're moving faster than sound.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It is. Yeah. And that's where, again, their bread and butter is in-person fans. But you have 8 pairs in first round only. Starts 11 a.m. on Sunday. The stands are full for first round. I mean, how long does first round last? 30 minutes, maybe. Then you have 2 hours till they get to go again. Yeah. And how do you make the cars faster, rebuild? Like, can you make more sustainable parts where they don't hurt them every time? I don't know how that could work, but
then as a real fan, if you watch them rebuilding the engine, how amazing is that? That's almost better than the race.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. And like, it's like any sport. If you had no idea of sprint cars, I took you to a race and brought you in the trailer, you think it was the coolest thing ever. Yeah. Same for drag racing. If we're able to go at some point to I-70, they just open it up. I think they're going to have top fuel cars down in Odessa, Missouri. If we go and you walk in the trailer, meet Austin, see the car, you'll be like, I love drag racing. It's the greatest thing ever.
We need to do in any of these grassroots, and then we got to get you guys out of here because you got to get to Missouri. I know that they've tried to do it, some of these docu-series and stuff like that. Like the Netflix one with Formula One's honestly, I think it's my favorite show I've ever watched in my life.
Could not agree more.
I don't know how, but they will just get me locked in on the freaking AlphaTauri battle for 8th in the constructors, and I'm like, just oh my god, you got 16.
That format,
yes,
it works for golf. My wife watches
full
golf.
Awesome, yeah.
My wife watches golf. I don't even watch golf, and she's like, "Fucking Bryson DeChambeau did it." I'm like, "Wow, how are you watching that?" She's like, "Well, full swing." Like, I'm like, what? You watch golf? Like that's the format that you need.
Well, and sprint car racing's tried it. Sheldon had the one. There was one about him, and they did one with like Larson and Sweet, and I don't think they were very good. It was too, in my mind as a consumer, it was too promotional. Like it was very transactional. We need one to like really showcase these like personalities, especially in dirt racing. There's personalities everywhere.
The best one I saw was the NOS one.
Yeah. So
I agree. Yeah. That was probably the best one I've seen.
I don't remember I think it was called like the young and the dirty or whatever it was they did for the Outlaws. It was awesome. Brad Jones did a phenomenal job on it. And it's like they put it out there. And it's like, there we go, guys. And it's like, okay, that was cool. When's the next one coming out?
Yeah.
And then it's like goes a couple years and someone's like, I want to do a docuseries. It's like, yeah, well, what happened the last 3 years? Keep doing them. Do one a quarter or one every 10 races. Or I know it costs money. I know it costs money. I get that. But
there's got to be some sponsorship in there, though, because it would be.
Look at how F1 has transformed fans in the United States.
Oh, it's insane.
They've always struggled for a market in the United States. They have a race in Vegas,
Now
Miami,
4 races or
Texas.
3? Yeah.
Yep, I think it's 3.
I've never been a bigger F1 fan. And I've watched it since Schumacher was kicking everybody's ass back in the 90s, way before you boys were even. But like I'm now like, I'll sit there and Pierre Gasly. Oh my God. Really hope he can get over the hump. I like that guy.
Right.
Oh, he's running 19.
What's going on with Danny Rick? Is he going to get back in the car? You know,
like I'm following all these because I like these guys.
Yeah.
And then I know the team principles and I know it's because there's so much more to what you guys do than even what you guys do.
Yeah.
Well, and I think F1, the fact that they have built this, continued to build it, the biggest motorsport in the world, and the racing sucks.
It's terrible.
It's terrible.
It's so bad.
How are you a Formula One racing series? And the racing is the fucking worst part. Going to the race, doing the deal, going meeting drivers. That's what everyone goes to. I mean, meow. And Max Verstappen wins by 3 laps.
Max Verstappen wins 18 of the 20 races.
Dude, so
I don't want to watch that.
No, I don't.
But we watch it. I have a theory. My theory is that Americans love to act like they're European. You know,
I don't disagree with that. Yeah,
Swiss watches.
Yeah,
I swear nobody actually likes soccer in this country.
That's a sport I can't get
into.
Me
either.
I say that in jest. There clearly a lot of soccer.
Right.
I think a lot of these like European soccer fans,
right?
They just like to wear the fly emeritus on their jersey or whatever, right? Like it's and that to me is F1. It's about like because most people who want to go to an F1 race can't afford to go to an F1 race. They're like me. It's like, I'd love to go to Monaco, but that's like an entire year of my salary.
Seriously.
Right. Yeah. Like I'd never be able to afford that.
And then if you're going to go to Monaco, you got to get a yacht to go with it.
And gamble because there's casinos there, obviously.
I can't even afford to go to the Miami race. You know what I mean? So like, it's kind of like you, in your mind, you're living in this world that you're never going to be able to.
Yeah.
And they've done a good job. Like if you look at all of F1 sponsors, it's, the watch companies, it's Ferrari, it's all these like super
luxury.
Yep. And that, I do think like Nas has done an awesome job.
Yes,
I think so too.
In the dirt track, like, and I will religiously buy Nas when I go to a Casey's because they support blackjack.
Yep.
Right, like I'm that guy.
Yes.
It absolutely works.
And how good does Brian do? I think he walks around town with a Casey's pizza in this hand and a Casey's coffee all the time.
Now he's serving up Andy's frozen custard.
He's got a frozen custard machine on his back to give to people. I mean, like, how awesome does he do with that? You know?
Yeah, he is probably, I would say, probably the best in our sport with sponsorship engagement. And
I look up to him as an entrepreneur. He feels
phenomenal.
Yeah. There's more to what's going on there than just.
And he drives it and he owns it. Like you're not just the marketing guy. He's
doing
everything.
The books. He's doing everything. I mean, payroll, the whole program. I mean,
really kind of a throwback, right? I mean, that's what it was like.
Yeah.
In the 90s, right? Where these guys, for the most part, own their own stuff.
Well, Steve Kenza Racing forever. It was, or Carl and him. It was their own deal.
Yep.
All those guys.
Bloomquist has always owned his. Moyer always owned his. Like, and like Moyer doesn't anymore, but that's kind of just the way it used to be. Well, this was a blast. I feel like you're going to be a recurring guest, right?
I would love to if I can make it out here. But
well, you are you coming to Knoxville?
I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm definitely not going to be here in April, but I don't know. I don't know what my schedule looks like. It's so hard with 2 kids and a full-time job to get away. I can tell you this. There's a very good possibility this will be the last time that my car leaves California. So these next few weekends.
Well, let's get you a ride. If we can get you a ride for the Nationals, will you come now?
I don't know. Unless it's an 18 car, I don't know. I don't know what that looks like. I still I got so much on my plate. Like I have a hard time saying no. Like, helping out with a little bit of podcast that I'm doing now and stuff. It's just like, I don't know. I have a hard time saying no. I got to back myself off because I'm selling wheels. I'm, working at Red Rose. I'm driving race cars, all that kind of stuff.
My goal is for Gio and I to be able to do a show at Knoxville, like a live show.
That would be awesome.
Like,
well, if we do it in Dingus, maybe the guy you punched will be there.
You punch a guy in Dingus?
Allegedly. There's no proof,
dude. The amount of fights I've almost been in at Dingus, but I have a really good skill. I run my mouth and then I get the hell out of there.
So there's
because I know that I'm not a fighter. I'm getting out.
There's a really good place, like nice family venue in West Des Moines that I used to frequent Beach Girls, I believe was the name of it. There's only one beach in Iowa.
Very
Only one
classy.
beach in Iowa.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Super high ditch.
I've
place.
never been there though. I don't know what you're
No.
talking
Yeah.
about.
Like I've
What's
been,
what's the address?
2321 West Banks Avenue. No, but yeah, so I used to go there from time to time, just like there was a Euro shop out front, like a little trailer. So we would go there for the food and then just like mosey in for the entertainment.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah, nothing serious. But we left there, took my wife there for the first time. She had a great time.
Of
which
course.
was cool.
I mean, when in Rome.
Yeah, exactly. And we're like, well, we should go to Dingus just to like see who's there. And one thing leads to another, and I'm wearing a neon green shirt signed by all the strippers and all the employees.
As
of
one
Beach
does.
Girls.
Yeah.
Yeah, as one does. And next thing I know, I was getting run out the back door at Dingus. Yeah, and the cops were coming in the front. So
You were at Dingus?
yeah, I was at Dingus. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought you were at Beach Girls.
I was,
Went
and then we
to
drove.
Dingus.
We
Oh,
went
and
to
then you
Dingus.
went
Because
to
after.
obviously
Dingus.
after Beach Girls, you go to Dingus, an hour away, right?
Well, you're not going to go to Applebee's.
First time I met Gio, I don't even think you were 21 yet.
Yeah.
Can I tell a story?
Because I asked him, I was like, yeah, you want to go to Dingus? He's like, well, I'm technically not 21. It was like he was trying to hide something.
And,
He was
and
going
the
to
be-
Dingus
the-
when he was 16.
the best part, being so stupid at 16, 17 years old, like you just race across the road. Everyone came from the racetrack, and you're like, I can get in here. They're not going to recognize me. It's like, what are you thinking? You're not going to get in there. Yeah.
Okay, I'm telling it anyways. I don't
Tell
care.
a story.
Yeah.
Okay, so
We don't hold anything back on this show.
it's pre-recorded, right? It's not live, so we can cut whatever we need to cut out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Aiden's more work for Aiden. Watch
Yeah.
out.
So we get him into Beach Girls one time. He had a fake ID, Bernie Stubgen Jr.
Yep.
And me and Brandon Hickman, who was working on my car at the time, we gave this girl like $40, and we're like, hey, he's like 18, 19 years old. Like, just have fun with him.
Love
And
him up.
I think he was 16 or 17 at
Yeah.
the time.
He was
And
18. I think it's 18 there.
It's 18
Yeah, we
there,
got,
but he
we got a
wasn't.
lot of illegal stuff.
Yeah,
happening.
he was not 18. So we're drinking and we're at the strip joint, blah, blah, blah. And
with Bernie.
with Bernie.
Bernie. Yeah.
And this girl gets him up on stage and takes his belt off and proceeds to whip
Whipped his
the
ass.
living
Yeah.
shit out of this poor kid.
Seen that.
He had
Yeah.
welts everywhere. It was
Yeah.
awesome.
Did you enjoy it?
Oh,
It was so great.
God.
I was jealous, honestly. Like, man,
You're like, me next.
me next. Yeah.
My
Oh,
God, we could have
Yeah.
some fun with this show.
Mm.
This
we're
is
just
more what
getting
my
started.
show's about.
Yeah.
We're in hot laps. You're gonna start the heats next time you're on
I
here.
don't want to be
We never even
here.
got to you asking me any questions. How about that?
Yeah,
I
Yeah,
I
never
told
got
him,
there.
I said, it's not going to be an hour. I'm like, the best way to do this, and this is how it, like, most of the time is, I'm like, we should do a show, stop it, then just record a second show, because there's never any time I can ever end under an hour. I keep talking.
122 is what we're looking at right
Yeah.
up there.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll call this one quits.
We should probably go.
Yeah, we should kill this because you guys have got to get that. And you got your big meeting coming up
Absolutely,
too.
yeah.
You got your drop dead time.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, sorry,
40.
11:10.
Yeah.
50 minutes.
Get
yeah.
out of here. We'll be watching tonight.
Awesome.
Best
Thank you
of
for
luck.
having
Thank
us.
you for the
Cool.
diecast. We appreciate
worries.
it. We will. I don't know when our next show is, but we'll make it. We'll be
Yep.
more consistent.
It'll
here.
be soon. We'll be home.
Yeah,
Yep. We'll
it'll be
home for
more
next month.
consistent here. Thanks for watching. Tell all your friends. Subscribe on YouTube at Always Race Day, and then you can search Scelzi Says wherever you guys listen to your podcast.